So we're here at Tacoma Night Market. I'm here with Danny. You said it's great, guys. Come check us out.
We're going to the Tacoma Night Market to do a brand new campaign for F7 Media called F7 Media Highlights, where Luis, our what you would call yourself, Luis, our presenter,
Center,
our
journalist, broadcaster, weatherman as well. And you know, I gotta show off the hair.
So if you're a weatherman, can you give us the 7-day report?
The 7-day report. We are.
And we're going to talk to small businesses and get them to talk about their products, their services, what they offer. And we'll see if we can draw up some business by getting our name out there and getting some interaction. We got Gio with us today too. This will be good.
Hey, finally,
So, yeah.
they invite me. I feel special.
Gio,
They always inviting me.
we did not invite you that time. We did not invite you. We just happened to just go, and we planned. We're like, oh, let's just go.
Let's go. Hey guys, this is Luis with F7 Media, and we have
Simone and Shania. I'm a photographer. I do preschool photography and event photography. My company is Sophia Creations, and this is my way of getting myself out here in Tacoma. This is my first time in a Tacoma event.
I'm a local artist and I teach kids to the local community centers.
Can you tell us about your business a little bit?
We make jewelry out of pretty much anything we can find. I've got skulls and bones and stones. Do some chainmail.
Handmade? Like you guys made it?
Yeah, and then all of these. That's all ours too, and there's a pile of them right there. We do all that stuff.
I am a full-time portrait artist and I also make art prints. Yeah, I just do that full-time right now out of school.
And which is your favorite piece?
I feel like it's this one because this one made me cry like 12 times while painting it, so I feel like it has to be my favorite.
Make sure you come to Tacoma Night Market to check some of these great paintings.
So I make custom apparel for people who love anime and who need something specific placed on any style of apparel. I do a pick and press. So right now people are able to choose any image they like in the folder, and I'll press it on any color t-shirt or crew neck they like right here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I pour resin and make custom home goods.
Oh, wow. And then Brittany, which one, I would say, because you said you do anime ones as well. Do you have anything on Attack on Titan?
Oh, not on me right now.
I'm here with Cole. Hi DJ. Right now I'm at the Tacoma Night Market.
Hey, Cole, what's your favorite music, or song, I should say?
That's a hard choice. I've been listening to a lot of Kendrick after the Super Bowl. I'm going to see him at Lumen Field. I've been really digging Luther right now.
Nice. This is Gio and I'm with
Sweet Lady Treats, aka Sarah Mariah. So I make a variety of custom treats. I make cheesecakes, birthday cakes, danishes, candied fruit. Tonight I have some cookies with me. I have creme brulee, lotus biscoff, and chocolate crave.
3, 2, 1, and hey! I'll go first. Sweet lady. Oh my god.
How about it?
My mom is gonna be so jealous. My mom's gonna hate me. Sorry, mom. These are better.
Oh no, wait, what do you guys want to eat? Because I'm dying.
Let's eat the Mountain Dew.
Woo!
Oh, the Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew with
Baja
some
Blast.
vodka?
Yeah, Baja Blast.
Baja Blast with some freaking vodka in it,
Hey,
bro.
talk about...
Don't film that, KJ. I went the wrong way.
I got it all on camera.
Delete it. KJ's cousin. KJ's cousin. Yeah, well, yeah. Oh yeah. Zoom in, KJ. We're going to see. We're gonna eat at KJ's cousin's house.
Is Wendy home? First time trying Wendy's.
What sandwich is that?
It looks like a McDonald's chicken sandwich.
Tell the camera.
But apparently, you know, they say, let's go to KJ's cousin because she makes good sandwiches.
Why is she my cousin?
Turn the camera.
We don't have to do that.
I can taste the
the GMO.
The G.
I don't even know what that means, but it sounds cool. I approve it. You didn't know you didn't know you ordered chicken, right? You better subscribe.
Thank you for joining us on the Downing Cut. We've had a number of episodes now, so we're excited to have everybody that comes on the channel. We can ask questions and get to know people. And if you feel free to leave a comment for those who are watching. If you have a question for somebody, leave it in the comments. If you want to be on the show, come on to the Downing Cut and reach out to me, and we'll put you on the show. So today's guest, I'm excited to have Luis Ciccia, a graduate of the University of Washington who has built a dynamic career as both an actor and a producer in the Seattle's indie film scene. Since joining F7 Media in 2022, Luis has worked on a variety of films, commercials, impactful projects, including BR 2046, Blame, and Cousin. Well, you know, Cousin. So, thank you for coming on to the Downing Cut, Luis. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, and thank you for such a great introduction, Joe.
Well, it's all true, right? I mean, that's as long as it's true, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
So we met each other for the first time on Cousin, and I think our relationship, our connection, and getting to know each other has kind of evolved over time. And I'm excited to have you in my next film, but no spoilers. We will talk about that off camera. And I'd like to ask everyone, Luis, how did your journey start? What sparked your interest into the film industry and acting, producing, and all the realms that you've been involved in?
Yeah, I would say, I guess my journey started as an actor, but I never wanted to be an actor in the first place. My sister was kind of like the one who was like, "Hey, I think you might be a pretty good actor." When I was younger, I had I was very reserved, so I barely talked, and I had a lot of stage fright. But she's the one that kept pushing me. She's like, "Hey, you should do it. Do some," and she'd find like stuff on Facebook, and I think in Facebook, that's kind of where I started my acting, I guess, career as a background. I found this ad. It was from Denise Gibbs, and she needed some background for kind of like a TV show. And so I applied. I got in. It was like during summer, and we had to wear stuff that looked like we were in winter. So I had a blazer, a turtleneck, all black, walking down the streets of Seattle, no lines, just back and forth. And so that was kind of like my beginning, sweating nonstop. And that was like the beginning of like my acting. And I guess I kind of really started to enjoy it more. And then during the pandemic, I really went kind of like full 100%, like, hey, I think I should develop this more. And it's become, I think for me, a sense of freedom as an actor. You're able to express yourself different ways where maybe society doesn't see it, or maybe they'll look at you funny. And it's just, I think when I'm acting, it's like I'm free. I'm able to either be another person, and just show a different range of emotion. And then from there, my acting kind of switched to, I guess, what I am right now, which is a producer. And that happened when I was taking an acting class, and I met my buddy Johnny Jones at the acting class with other really incredible actors and actresses. And, we did a 48 together. And then he invited us to do a pilot. And then after that, he said, "Hey, I want to create a business. I need a producer." And then, I told Johnny, I was like, "Hey, I'm not a producer, but, I'll help you find clients. That's all I can do." And he's like, "Hey, you're a producer now." And I would say the first film I produced was Blame. Johnny wrote it, and I guess I acted it as well as one of the actors. And it was an incredible experience. A little bit stressful because I had to find location, I had to find actors, I had to make I have graphics for everybody, and we had like a time limit, and it kind of put you in a different perspective because as an actor, you show up on set and you just wait until you know they're ready for you. But there's so much more going on behind the scenes that an actor doesn't really realize. And sometimes you're like, man, why is this taking so long? But it's like, oh, they got to set up for the next scene. They got to make sure lighting's good, audio's good. Maybe the director wants to do something else, or there's no batteries run out, or they got to change the lens, or there's a new idea. So it's so much more. And I would say when I was younger, I thought the director was the one that created the whole film. And as I got deeper into the industry, I was like, oh, it's actually a whole team that makes, a movie. And as I became a producer, I'm like, oh, there's more layers to this than what I thought. And, I'm still learning. And for me, it's such a great journey, great experience. Being a producer for like projects where I'm able to help out on locations, actors, getting everything set up, and I view it like a team effort. Each department is very important to the film. If one department lacks, it affects everything.
So when you started acting, I mean, that's fairly recent then, right? 2023?
I would say, yeah,
2021?
2021, yeah.
Okay. So this is good because a lot of our audience would be folks who are thinking about getting into acting and kind of seeing what's out there and how to do it correctly. How challenging has it been from going from a background actor, which is, I mean, that's how I started too, to being in front of the camera and being like a lead or being, a co-star or whatever?
I would say, I think from like being a background, when I started, I just thought, okay, I just gotta walk. I don't really have to do much. I'm not really important. And then as I started transitioning to kind of like being more in front of the camera, it's, I would say at first it's nerve wracking, but I think the more you do it, it becomes a lot easier. And I remember the first time I was like a lead for a commercial. I didn't know I was the lead of the commercial until I got them. They're like, oh, hey, you're going to be in front of the camera. I was like, oh, I thought I was going to be the guy that's blurry in the background. And they're like, no. And then like, they're like, hey, can you smile? And I was so nervous that I forgot how to smile at that moment. But after that, it's like, okay, I got to practice, different movements, facial expressions, smiling in front of the camera. And then once you start getting lines, then it's like, okay, now I got to remember the lines. I got to get used to the lines, make sure the lines are mine, and then put my own twist into it. And then when I'm in front of the camera, it looks natural and it doesn't look like I'm acting. I think for me, and it's also, I think, having, especially if you're in a scene, having a great director and a great scene partner really does make a big difference. In Blame, my co-star was Nick, and he was just, he's in a different whole level. And we were rehearsing together, and I was just watching how he got into his character, the way he moved, the breathing, he was a different person. So from there, I think, I learned from him. And so I think in every scene I'm in, I'm always learning from, my co-stars, what the director's looking for. And it's just, I guess, being open to adjustment.
What is Blame about?
So Blame is so the premise is this character who he struggles with his good side and I guess chaotic personality. And the story is about someone that, he lost his wife and he's trying to find a way to cope with it. But at the same time, he has this dark personality that is trying to cope with it, but with a different way that isn't normal. And so we're kind of like set in a therapy session with a therapist and this character.
You play the therapist.
No, I play the broken character who has the split
Oh,
personality. Yeah,
okay. So you're the lead.
yeah, I'm the lead on that one.
Yeah.
And our director she was incredible. Her name is Morgan Dukes, and just the way we rehearsed, just the way we got into character, and then the way, you know, sometimes as actors we think, oh, hey, I think this is how the character's going to lead, or this is how they're going to react to this type of scene. But what I liked about her is that she made you think outside the box of like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, that's a different angle I can, approach it. Oh, yeah, that's more depth. And it was, it, like, I would say my favorite part is the ending, because it's, you see, the character fighting with his personalities, but who's going to win, his dark side or his good side.
Is that film? Is it in festivals or is it on? Oh, it's
Um,
on YouTube.
it's
It's
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube.
I
Okay.
would say I would want to. I do want to remake it now, because it was kind of like a what's it called? Kind of like I guess it's a small. Oh man, what's that word? Pilot, not pilot. Kind of like a sample. Like, hey, this is what we thought what could happen. Like, I
Yeah.
would want to remake it, cast a different actor, and then kind of have a little bit more of a bigger budget, and I guess work on more on the story and make it longer, since it's technically a 10-minute video or
Yeah.
10-minute film. I kind of want to explore more to it and add more of the depth, relationship with his wife, how his wife helped him, relationship with the therapist, and then I I casted Giovanni as the paramedic who comes in, and he does such a great job. He brought his own props and everything. He had his gloves. Hey, he's always great working with him. And then I had another actor. His name was Trent. We there was this my favorite scene. It's funny, but it's not in the cut. But in the scene, I have to write down the address of, like, where I live. And actually, while we're filming it, I wrote down the whole address, and the scene came out like a 5-minute scene. It's supposed to be like a 1-minute scene, and so I spent writing down the whole address, and everybody just look at me and they're like, "Hey, let's cut. Let's do it quicker." And so that was just my favorite one. Just like, okay, I gotta write the address better, a lot faster.
I can relate starting out when there's this as a background or you're starting to get into in front of the camera and they want you to smile, and you get to a point where you almost freeze and you're like, okay, how do you try to smile, and then you start, like, for me, my muscles in my face start twitching. It's like I have no idea how to do this anymore because I'm like so nervous on, oh, am I supposed to? Yeah. Now, but you had training, right? You went to a workshop, and how has that shaped the way you approach your roles?
Yeah. So I, kind of. So I had training with a couple workshops. I trained with Mighty Tripod and with Angela and David, and just, I guess, coming from background, for me, I didn't really know much about the industry. I didn't know. Okay, don't I know as a background, I just walk back and forth. That's it. But going through the workshops, it does really open your eyes of what the industry is all about, and then kind of going to building your character. What is the character? What are you looking for? What's the end goal? And just seeing a different approach to it, because they can give you maybe a 5-word line, but the way you approach it, the tone of it, the rhythm of it, can all come different. And so that was something I didn't realize. And then just also being comfortable with the role and then with the lines, so it comes out, not acting, but as like, hey, this is a real person that says this.
Yeah. What now you mentioned you did some theater last year. How much of a transition was that to do acting on stage versus in front of a camera?
Oh man, so I did theater. My friend, Jasmine, she pushed me. She's like, hey, I think you should do theater. They had casting calls on summer, but I put a good word for you. Just go audition. And I thought, and so I wrote to the casting director, and she's like, hey, come to our audition. And I thought it was going to be one-on-one with the director. And so I get there, and we're in a theater, and it's a group of 30 people, a stage, and I don't how like they didn't give me my sides, so I don't know what character I'm acting, I don't know what play I'm in, so I'm nervous. I see everybody go up there killing it, and I'm like, please let me just do a scene by myself. And they're like, all right, you're gonna do a scene with with another person. I felt bad for the lady because I sucked. I was like, oh my gosh. But I guess from film to theater, your movements have to be a lot bigger because in film.
Wait a minute. Let me pause you. Because you're like, I sucked. I felt bad for the lady, and then you go into, well, let me tell you how the experience was. What? So obviously you got the role, right?
Yeah. So there was 2 plays that I was auditioning. One of them I didn't get the role. That was the one with the lady who I was the worst scene partner she had because I didn't know the lines. So I was I was looking back and forth. I couldn't. I guess I was trying to act and it was flat. The next audition I did, it was a little bit smaller, and I guess the director, she liked how I looked, and then the cast director told me, hey, Luis, we know you did commercials, film. Just know that in theater, you got to be a lot louder. You got to be a lot bigger, more expressive. And so I did my second, take on my audition in a different way. And I didn't think I got the part. I called Gio. I was like, hey, I just did this. It was a good experience. I know I didn't get the part, but at least I tried and I got to see what it was, being an audition in front of people. And then Gio's like, no, man, if they like you, they'll call you, they'll give you the part. And I was like, no, you should have been there. I was bad. And then I get an email saying, hey, we want you to come to, I'm blanking the callback. Callback. They're like, hey, we want you to come for callback. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so the callbacks were on, online. And I saw, the other actors, and I was like, and they, they all did their lines. I was like, man, they're so good. And I was like, I'll just do it knowing that I didn't get the part, so I'll have fun with it. You just enjoy myself. I did it. Blah blah blah. Did my line, and then the next day I get an email saying, "Hey, we want you to play for the older brother. Are you able to, commit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm supposed to commit." And I thought my part was gonna be very small, a couple lines, and then that's it. I'm out of the play. And it turns out I'm almost in the whole entire scene. And I didn't think I could memorize a whole play, and just practicing, and then kind of going back with the training I did with Nick, the way he would just rehearse. I kind of took that to my theater, and I was just rehearsing my lines. And I would say, Joe, at first, everybody doesn't know you. You're kind of okay, hey, this is my role. We're supposed to be brothers, or hey, I'm your son. And everybody's a little bit stiff, but as because you're 3 months rehearsing, doing everything, and as you get to that moment where it's the first show, the nerves are just there, and you can't call sick, you can't run away. And I was like, I worked, weeks coming to this place, rehearsing, learning my lines. It's time to go. And so I go up. I don't even look at, the audience. I just go, okay, this is my character. This is what I do. Boom, 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 boom. And then next thing I know, it's over. I'm like, yeah, we did it. We survived.
Yeah.
But it's because I guess in film, you can call cut and adjust, but in theater, there's no cut. It's like if you mess up, you just go with it. If the lights go out, you just go with it. If someone forgets a chunk of their lines, you just go with it. If you trip, you just go with it. It's it was. I did like the experience. It was a nice experience. The director was incredible. Everybody in the cast was incredible, and just being like first time in theater, it was great. Would I do it again? Maybe, but I want a smaller role, like a very tiny role.
How many shows did you do?
Oh man, I think we did 10, 10 shows.
Wow,
So
that's a lot of time.
Yeah, so it's every weekend. It was I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we did it for about 3 weekends. Just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I think towards the end, it's like you get into the groove. You know it. It flows a lot better. But yeah, it was fun.
Good. I think I've done theater when I was in college, and I'm very happy with film. So Luis, you've had experience. You've been on sets. You've been on multiple films. You've produced. What makes a good actor? What are the top 3 attributes that you want to see in a good actor?
Ooh, I would say discipline, open-minded, and I would last one would probably be kind of curious, kind of see what if there's more to the character, or if they want to do something a little bit different than what the vision is. Sometimes they might have a better suggestion than what you thought about it. And you're like, oh, actually, I didn't think about it. Let's go with that. Or if it's not the right path, you can always bring them back. I'm like, hey, that's good. But I think having an actor who's disciplined, that knows the craft, they ask questions about the character, questions that are more in depth, like, oh, hey, who's this character? Where's he from? What's the background? What does he do? What's his relationship with these other characters? And I would say, and another one is, not to be, I guess, a diva on set. That is always the best.
Have you ever worked with divas before?
Yes. Yes. Luckily, I was just helping out as like boom operator, but yes, it really, I would say, it slows down the process a lot. Where you can work on different scenes, it just slows everything down because now you gotta explaining to this one actress, and it takes away from the other actors, the other people who are on set. And for me, I feel like, especially if you have a time limit, I would say, do it after, you're done filming, talk about it. But when you're on set, let's focus through set, finish it. And then you have questions after the scene's done, ask, say, hey, why is this? But if it slows down production, it's like, no.
So what did they do? Did they start asking questions about the scene, or was it the fact that they wanted something different, or how did that work?
Yeah. Not to go too much depth, but yeah, they're asking stuff about, questions about the scene, stuff where it's pretty like like, it's pretty obvious, like, hey, the character breathes. That's you don't have to ask why he's breathing because he's alive. You don't have to like, oh, it's like asking movements or like, oh, I guess an example, like, why do I have to tie my shoe?
Okay. So
Like,
they should have known. They should have answered all these questions before they even got on set. Really, right?
yeah,
Okay. So they just weren't geared and prepared.
yeah, and I think I feel like I think one thing I do like about theater is you have time to rehearse, and then in film, like rehearsal is very limited, and sometimes like it's up to the actors to rehearse on their own, and then when you have everybody together, you might have what, one, two, or three times, but it's, I guess if they're not rehearsing at home or if they're not practicing blocking, then once they get on set, it's like, hey, what am I gonna do? Or a good actor knows what the character does in the movement that comes in, and then the director just adjusts. Hey, okay, we're gonna do this movement, change this and that. But if you come in not prepared, then you're gonna be like, and then the director's like, hey, did you do this? Hey, did you prepare this? Or if you have a fight scene and you haven't prepared, then it's like, oh, okay, then injuries can happen, or it doesn't look, authentic. So it's, I guess, being prepared on set.
What have you? Speaking of being prepared, what best technique have you used in learning your lines? Is there a certain method that you use?
Yes. So I learned this from Nick, and basically, I would grab a tennis ball. From what I taught him, for what he taught me, he would grab a tennis ball, and he would just throw it on the wall, and he would repeat his lines. He would try to catch the ball, and he would go. And as he learned the lines, he'll go a lot quicker. And so that's how I learned my lines in the play. I, use a tennis ball, throw it at the wall, repeat my lines, just focusing on trying to catch the tennis ball, but also having the lines in my head, where then it becomes kind of like a movement, like muscle memory. Like, okay, I'm learning it. I don't have to just think about it. Now it's coming in. I shake my hand. The line's already in there. And so that's kind of one of the ways I learn my lines is with that tennis ball method.
Nice. How has your experience been as an actor? How has that influenced your approach in producing films and commercials?
I would say as an actor, so I've been as an actor in, different types of sets. I've been in horrible sets and I've been in really good sets. And I think from what I took, in the horrible sets, I'm like, if I ever produce something, I don't want anybody to go what I've been through. So the one thing that I always say is like, let's have crafty, let's make it big. So if people are coming in, they feel energized, like, oh, hey, they got drinks, water, snacks, we're fine. But if you don't have, like, I've been on sets where it's like 8 hours and the only thing they have is water. And it's like,
what?
Yeah. Or sometimes nothing. And so, and that's something I learned from Gio, where it's like, bring your own stuff. But it's like, if you're asking these people to, sacrifice your time, be an actor in your set or in your film, at least provide and have that courtesy of giving them some food, snacks, and having a spot where they can kind of relax and feel at ease. Because you could see how an actor, if they don't have that, like, you can tell like the power source is like going down, and it's like you can tell like, hey, I want to leave, like, right away. But if you have kind of like those essentials, it's like they'll stick with you until the end. They'll even go the extra mile for you. Like, oh yeah, got you. Yeah. And then and so that's when it comes. And then also safety. Safety is a big thing that on the sets I'm in. I always want to make sure everybody's safe. And I can't stress enough the big safety. It just, I've been on a set, Joe, where it was so bad, where like, a shit could have caught fire, burned down the DP, the actress in there, where it was just so every time I'm on set, I'm always thinking like everybody, the crew, the talent, make sure they're safe. If they need a break, let's provide that break for them, because the worst thing that can happen is injury on set, and safety and crafting is kind of like the big things that I want to make sure are perfect on set.
What do you find the most challenging aspect about balancing the creative and logistical sides of production?
Oh man, I want to say sometimes in the creative, you kind of, we're all creative. We kind of want to film it in this way, but due to the fact of either the location or maybe time constraint, you just can't get that one shot, and so you have to compromise on some of the creativity just so you can finish the film. And especially if you're on a location that's like, hey, you only got 4 hours to film, and you're like, man, I really want to get this whole epic scene, but it takes 2 hours to set up, and then you come with like, is it worth it? And so you have to compromise and like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I'll get different shots and maybe scale it down. And so that would probably be it, just in that aspect.
When you look back at your projects like BR2046 or BR2046 and Blame, what aspects of the storytelling stand out to you the most?
So BR 2026, that one was a short film that me and my editor KJ did. We were just talking online one time, and we're like, hey, why don't we make a film about being in the bathroom for too long? that's so that film's about what happens when you're in the bathroom too long. And so we made a parody of it, and that one was more of like more of a comedy, lighter. Hey, we're just gonna film in one day, see what happens. I guess in a way it's like, hey, can we film this in a day? And also, and we had a very small crew, and we got it done. Blame was different because the Blame was more of like, hey, we have to do a little pre-production, get the location, make sure everybody's safe, crafty, and then we had a time limit of like, hey, we're gonna start at this time and then we're gonna end at this time, and it was more of a darker tone, and I guess because I also acted on both of them on BR 2026. I keep messing the dates, but that one, it's more of like a light tone comedic role, and then in Blame it's more of like dark, very depressed, broken character, this individual person who's messed up, and then kind of getting into that, I guess, that mode of who this character is was kind of like a big difference between the other characters. Like, hey, this character's, he's not right in his head, he's messed up, and then being this comedic role, like, oh, hey, I'm gonna be an old guy for 2 hours, have the makeup artist make me look old, spray my hair gray, come in with a cane. It's different, but it does show kind of like the difference of like, it's fun because we both, for Blame and the other one, we filmed it in one day too. So yeah. It is, I think for us it was kind of like, hey, can we do these projects in a day, or do we need more time to film it? And so that's why, what I said earlier, I do want to go back, remake Blame, make it maybe a little bit longer, couple days shooting.
Interesting. Well, if you need an actor, let me know.
Yes.
Do you find was it easier to do comedy or do something darker? Like, which one did you prefer, and which one did you find let me ask you it in this way. Which one required you to really focus more on the acting aspect versus being natural?
I would say, I guess the darker one. I think comedy, I don't think I'm funny, and sometimes I don't, it's hard to do like a comedic role because you gotta have timing and everything. And so that one was a little bit harder, but kind of like the roles as an actor, it's more of a darker twist in it. Because I told Johnny, it's like, because Johnny told me, like, hey, what kind of character would you want to play? And I was like, oh man, I want to play this character like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where it's like two people fighting within each other. And then I guess being in that zone as a character, and then you have to play a different character within yourself who's darker, who's more violent, and it. I prefer those roles, and just rehearsing and getting into that character was more. What I thought was a lot funner because it's you really are a different person. You become a different person, and then when your other half switches, it's like, okay, now I have to change the tone, how the darker side talks. How does he look? Is he smiling because he's cynical, or is he just straight looking down? Like, how does it happen? And I think just playing that role, and can I ask more questions about the character? Like, how would his lighter self be? How would his darker side be? How would they both react or communicate with the therapist? Because they're different. Has he been lying to the therapist all this time, or has he been open and truthful to the therapist? So it's kind of playing that, kind of like that mystery of that character.
It's interesting that a lot of the actors, including myself, we are kind of drawn to this. I think it's because we're happy people in general, and we have good lives, and we're not in this weird, strange realm, but we like the challenge of playing the people who are in these darker situations. And even if it's, I think one of the best times I ever had was when we did a counseling, like learning and development video, and I got to play with another actress, and we were both parents of this child, and actually it was before I was married, so it was kind of fun. And we get in an argument, we get in this heated argument, and that was so much fun because it was just like trying to find the ways and nuance. Like, we've all been in arguments before, but trying to find that way of nuance of like, how can I make this real with this woman who I've never, don't really know that well, but how can we dive into this character? And it was a blast because it was just rattling off, and people that were on set were saying they were like, it sounded like we were really fighting, that's what you want. So how did joining F7 Media impact your career, and what have you learned from being part of a growing production company?
Oh man, I think before I joined F7, I was just like, hey, I was gonna be an actor. I'm gonna leave Washington, go to California or any of the acting, hubs out there, and just pursue acting. And I remember I was talking to Gio, and I was like, hey man, let's move together. We'll find whatever.
Shout out to Giovanni.
Yes.
Giovanni, you need to come on the channel.
Yes. And we were so close in planning on like leaving. And then I joined this acting class because like, I need to get better. And I met Johnny, and then it's like, I guess going from there and then becoming like a producer, it's like, man, there's so much stuff. Instead of going outside of Washington, there's so much stuff that can be built here that a lot of people kind of don't want to build it here, or maybe they're like, oh, Seattle, we got Vancouver, California, LA. That's kind of like where everything happens. And so I think, joining F7, it's like, hey, let's build something here. And it's also in a way for me, like, where I can give back to the community. Because sometimes there's some roles that maybe you don't fit the part, maybe the director doesn't like you, or maybe a lot of stuff that just, you don't get the role. And so I thought, why don't I, as a producer, I'm able to create, these, stories or these films, and then invite my friends, have them audition, have them put them in there. Like, for me, it's like one of my biggest dreams is, to see my friends, win an Oscar from a film that we made, and just being in the audience and then having them, do their speech. And that's like my biggest like goal. It's like just to be able to give back to the community, give back to, you know, locations or companies are like, hey, yeah, you can film on our set. And I think from, joining F7, I learned it's a lot about the community. Because without community, you're just a filmmaker. But with community, you're able to reach out. You got they become friends. Getting locations a lot easier because now everybody trusts you and they're like, hey, yeah, I work with these group. They're great. I trust them, especially when it comes to locations. There was a film that we did and the person was looking for a diner. And so I went everywhere in Seattle to find like a diner that looked like in early 90s. I ended up in this one location and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wing it. Let's go. And, I gave a big, I gave the big fat tip to the waiter and I was like, hey, it's the owner here. I want to talk to him, see, if he's just to introduce myself. And he's like, yeah, the owner's here. And so I ended up talking to the owner. And man, it was, I would say one of the best experiences, Joe, because like we had about 20-minute conversation. Next thing I know, he's like, hey, when do you need the location? And I was like, hey, I need it for this date. We got it. He comes in, gives me the keys, and he's like, all right, I'll, just lock up. And I was like, you're not going to be here supervising us? He's like, no, you're fine. I was like, oh, this is a first. He just left. He had so much trust in us that he was perfectly fine leaving. Technically, we were strangers, keys to his business. And, we filmed it. And then they asked for a second day. So that was like, hey, can we try it? Which he did, but it's like, pushing, I didn't want to push my luck, but it was just like, helping the community. Because with that, we told him, we're like, hey, we'll make commercials for you if you allow us to film your location. We made him a couple commercials, but just, I guess, just him being so comfortable with us, he's, gave us the alarm and everything, told us to lock up, and that's it. Because normally, they'll come in, I'm like, hey, are you guys done? You guys got to get out of here, or like, and it's like, oh man, and that's kind of what happened when I produced Blaine. I talked to the owners on the location. They're like, yeah, you can stay, and then all of a sudden, the owners come back when we're not done filming and we're getting to the good part. And so then I gotta be like, hey guys, this last scene, we gotta go. We gotta do the last shot with the drone. And then it just feels very uncomfortable when you see someone just looking at your shoulder like, hey, you guys gotta leave the property. And it's like, gosh, but when you build that, I guess that trust, they're more open to like, oh, hey, you need 2 more hours? Yeah, go ahead. Just text me when you're done. I think that's kind of what I like about it is that, joining F7, you learn more about the community and you learn more about the people. And then you kind of build that bridge from creativity, community, and business. And it's like a peaceful harmony. And you can do a lot more stuff with it.
What is F7? Where'd that name come from? Is that a Microsoft term? Is that for a keyboard?
Oh, no. So originally, when we did the first 48, there were 7 of us. And then I guess our editor, KJ, he's like, hey, I have a name. And we're like, yeah, what is it? And he's like, F7. And so I was like, and my first thought was like, oh, that, Fast and the Furious, F7.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, he must be a big car guy. But he's like, and I was like, what's it mean? He's like, nothing. And I was like, hey, that works for us,
It means nothing.
It means nothing. Just the letter F, number, that's it.
Not even the first 7? Nothing?
No, it just
stuck, huh?
It just stuck, yeah. We're like, yeah, we'll keep it. Because we were thinking like, what should we call the art, the name, what should be the name? Because, with Filthy Film Production, it's a little bit hard when you want to send emails and people read your name and you're like, what?
Spam.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, Joe, we got someone sent us an email. They're like, hey, we're doing it was like a nightclub for like, you might have to cut this out, but
No, we're leaving it in.
but they were doing like, it was a nightclub for like a swingers club. And so they're like, hey, do you guys want to come out and film? And we're like, hey, we're not that type of production. You know, we make movies, but not that type of movie.
We're filthy, but we're not that filthy.
Right. And so I think from there we're like, hey, I think let's change the name so people don't think we're that type of production. Because it's hard, especially when you're trying to rent Airbnbs and they see, hey, you know, we're filthy. So they're like, are you making a rated R movie? No. Rated X? No. We're just trying to make a simple PG movie.
That's hilarious. Well, so you use F7 Media then as your top tier, and then underneath that, when the film comes out. So let me ask you this: when you are producing and you rent out or you get a location, do you invite that owner to the premiere of the film?
Yeah, I do. So recently we did the 48 in July, I believe, or June. So we rented out Airbnb, and I'll tell you, Joe, it was hard because like every person I would contact, they would be like, hey, no, we don't want commercial. They would always say commercial photography. I don't know why, but I was like, we're not doing a commercial. We're just filming something for a competition. And they would be like, no, no, no. Hey, is this a rated X movie? No. Hey, I don't feel comfortable. The HOA doesn't feel comfortable. And we're like, hey, and I would tell them the details. Hey, this is a competition. You know, the genres are random. No, no, no. And then we finally got lucky with this owner because her father was a filmmaker too. And so he kind of knew, and they were so open. They're like, yeah, hey, come in. You guys are good to go. And then when I asked them, kind of like checkout is like 11 o'clock, right? And I asked them like, hey, can we stay here a little bit longer so, you know, my editor can finish editing? You know, everybody left. It's just me and my editor. They were like, yeah, just let us know when you guys are done. We got done at 6 in the afternoon, but they were fine with it, which was, we got so lucky on that. And I invited them to the premiere, like, hey, you know, you guys, but they lived all the way in Ellensburg.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Did you at least send them the film?
I should. I have it. Well, I'm trying to first, you know, put it in a festival. Because I honestly, when we did the 48, our goal for the 48 was, hey, let's get it done. Let's finish it on time, because we worked on other 48, my group, and we had a different editor. We didn't get it on time. We got disqualified. So the one, yeah. And it sucks because, like, you know, everybody works so hard, no sleep, and then it's like someone drops the ball, and it's all that hard work done.
Yep.
And so when we did the 48, you know, I told everybody, you know, it's like, hey, look, our key is, you know, our editor. Like, if he doesn't get it done, you know, what's the point of doing it? And so I basically had him set up. He had a whole room to himself. It was like the editor's room. Anything he needed, food, drinks, anything, be provided. And then I guess that was the goal. Let's get our 48 turned in on time and not get disqualified, which we've, you know, succeeded. And then now that we're doing another 48 for the horror, and now my goal is different. Now it's like, hey, we know what it is. We've been through it. We know what works and what doesn't. Now I want to win this time. I want to either have someone on my team, you know, get best actor, best actress, best editor, best DP. That's my goal. I want someone in my team to win something, because last time we played it safe, but this time I'm like, we're going. That's my goal. And I'm like, we're coming in to win something. all I want to do.
It's a good goal. I wonder if you invited the owner, if you show them your film of like, you know, let's say the restaurant, and you get them and then they start watching the film, it says Filthy Filming Productions. And they're like, what? That's like a shock to them. Like, wait a minute, I thought it was F7 Media.
Yeah.
But, have you ever had that happen? Anyone like ask? I mean, obviously it sounds like from the email, right? People are like, oh, are you guys making an X-rated film?
Yeah. We worked with we worked with this. We did a commercial for like a kind of like a learning center that had to do with STEM. And so when they saw our name, they're like, they asked us about it, and they were like, oh, hey, we came up with this, blah blah blah. And then I think from there it's like, hey, if we want to do any stuff with commercials for like schools, something that family, I think we should, change our name.
Yeah.
F7.
More.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better.
Right?
That's hilarious. Wait, so as both an actor and producer, how do you handle creative differences on set?
Okay. Oh man. I would say compromise, Joe. Compromise. Because sometimes, here's an example for our 48, right? I was producing and directing, and there's you get to a point where you're like, hey, this is the vision I want to do. This is what I'm just stoned. I want to get this done, film it this way. And then you have your team where they're like, hey, just want you to let you know, it's a 48. You only got 7 minutes. The scene that you're talking about might take 5 minutes. No. And so I think if you have a good team, they'll stop you. But, if you don't have a good team, they'll let you do it. And then all of a sudden your time's up. And it's like, as a creative, you have all these different ideas that you want to create. Hey, I'm thinking of this. Oh, I want to do this shadow. Oh, I want to add some fog here. But then you have to have someone that kind of brings you down, like, hey, just let you know, the fog takes this time. Oh, hey, if we put fog in this room, it's going to cover the whole thing. I don't think, the camera's going to capture it the way you want it. Or, hey, due to the fact that we're only using one camera, it's going to be hard to capture different angles. So it's kind of, I guess in a way, for me, I have to kind of stop myself, because on this 48, I have all these creative ideas like, hey, why don't we do this and that? And then our writer, he's like, Johnny's our writer and our DP, but he's like, hey, we don't know what our genre is, and if we come with this one creative idea and we get a genre that doesn't work for it, we basically wasted time. So let's keep everything flexible. And then I'm kind of like outside. I guess I'm outside the kitchen while they're cooking, and I want to be in there and be like, hey guys, just add this and that. But they're like, no. You stay out there. Once it's ready, you do your thing. But sometimes on different projects you have to kind of keep it simple, flexible. And then I would always, for me, it's like writing down the creative, the creative ideas. Like, okay, would this work for this project? Would this work for this project? If it doesn't, either store it, rewrite it, and then kind of come up with the team. Do your elevator pitch. I'm like, hey guys, I have this idea. What do you guys think? Can we do it? And then they can be like, oh, hey, we might need this and this, or hey, it's a little bit out of our range for this time.
Let me ask you this: I've spoken to a lot of different actors and directors and stuff, and my question is, what attracts you to the 48-hour festival or any kind of competition where you're limited and you have this pressure based on why, like, you're entering a contest knowing that you might fail, knowing that you might, just realized my light's off, knowing that that you might not, be quote unquote high quality like you'd want, versus just doing your own film? Like what attracts you to that competition side?
I think, man. Okay, so I so for me, I think it's in a way because I kind of go into these competitions kind of for two reasons. One, seeing how a team works, because I do invite new people to the group, and I do want to see, hey, how do they work in this time constraint, this fast pace? How would they do when we have a commercial and the stakes are a lot higher? I want to make sure, if they break under pressure, they waste time. And so that's kind of one reason I do the competitions, just to see how new talent, a new operator, a new editor, or a new actor, how do they work under these pressures? And then the other reason is, I guess I do like the competition aspect of like, oh man, dude, I want to win, or, I guess bragging rights. But at the same time, it's also like, hey, in the commercial side, we've done commercials where it's like short, quick turnaround, 2 hours to film, guerrilla style. So it's kind of like, hey, we learned these skills out there. Now it's a little bit easier to practice and do it. And it also allows us to perfect it. So in case we do have another commercial or another film where it's like, hey, you only have 3 hours to film in this location. Great. We know how to set up. We know what we need. We know the lighting. We know the audio. We know how to adjust. We can do it. And it's honestly, Joe, it really did help us. We did this interview for this project that we did. It's kind of like a sports team, and we get there early. We're supposed to have a bigger location, a nice backdrop, and then the hotel just cancels everything. So then we don't have a nice location. We don't have a big room. They throw us in this tiny room with a horrible backdrop. And it's like, okay, how do we adjust it? Well, we only got 30 minutes. Okay, let's think about it. Hey, okay, let's take this couch out. Let's change the lighting here. Okay, we only have a curtain. Let me go to the lobby. Let me ask them if I can steal or borrow their plants so it doesn't look like a hotel room. Just adjusting really quick, putting it in there, and then looking, okay, it doesn't look like a hotel room. It looks like maybe a office or a conference room. And so I think with the 48, it does kind of help us perfect our technique. And then the other reason is also to see how, I guess, new talent, how they work under pressure.
Interesting. So are you looking at new talent versus, so that when you do another film or project, you know who you can reach out to? Is that what you're doing? It's like an interview.
Yeah, it's kind of like an interview.
Let's see how you work with us. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of interview. Even though I kind of do feel bad because it's fast. Like the 48 goes by quick.
Yeah.
And the actors come in, they gotta learn the lines on the spot. They don't have a day to rehearse. They have just a couple hours. And then if you're working with a new camera operator, hey, how does he work? How fast can he get the angles that you need? Lighting, audio, how fast can we get everything, set up a scene? And I think for this one, I'm working with, it's kind of like the same team, because I kind of don't want to bring all new people, because if we have all new people, it becomes a chaos, and then nothing. It's like we're spending time setting up. So I normally bring one or two people just so they can see how other actors, how other crew members work. Because I feel like the best way to learn is learning from other people who've been doing it, and then you watch them do it in the moment. And so you're like, okay, this is how they do it. Now I can adjust it and apply it. And so some of the actors, having Tony and Gio, and they're going to be and that's one thing. I want either both of them to win Best Actor, Best Actress. But so they can see, hey, these are actors work under pressure, time constraint, learn from them. And it's also a good way for them to kind of get connected to, I guess, the industry, the community, get advice from them. Because I think for me, if it wasn't for Giovanni, I wouldn't have learned as much as an actor. And I think that's kind of, I want people to, I guess, learn and share that when you're on set, you really have to be open and talk to everybody. You can't just be quiet, because then you lose opportunities. You got to really be out there, put yourself out there, so people can think of it like, oh, hey, I worked with this person last time. I think they're going to be great in this set. Or if you come in with a bad attitude, then it's like, all right, I'm not working with that person ever again. They're not good.
What's a lesson that from one of your film roles that you've learned, like the Artifact or Startup, Polymary Tech, that you've applied to your work behind the camera? So what are the key things that you've seen that you're in front of the camera and that you've watched other people work and you're like, oh, that's a good technique, I'm going to use that?
Yeah, so I would say for Startup, when we first did it, we didn't know anything we knew a little bit, but we don't, not as much as what we know now. But it was like the audio was rough, the lighting was rough, and also kind of like getting, the location. Hey, we have this location for this time. Let's try to get everybody's scene, or hey, somebody needs to leave at this time. Let's get their scene done first, and then work from there. And I think, learning from that, it's like, okay, now for another project, it's like, okay, we improved in our audio. We made sure we have better audio. We made sure lighting's a lot better. Got new lights, got new audio. Changed the camera movement, changed cameras as well. And then also kind of reacting, especially in startups, since it's a bigger cast. The camera has to kind of react to who's talking, who's reacting to this moment. So it's kind of like moving back and forth. And then from other projects, I would say, I feel like we've grown our crafty system where it's like, hey, we've got a whole bunch. We got energy drinks, if anybody's tired, juice them up with energy, get them going. And then kind of coming with like safety, and also, sometimes some actors can't make it in a day. So you got to adjust, move their scenes back or different day, and then just tell, hey, we're doing scene 4, 5, 6, 7 on this day, and then we're shooting on the other day. And then also, I think from there also, from startup, one of the big things that I also kind of took from it was reshoots. Reshoots are very costly, and if you don't have everybody in the reshoot, don't even do them, because then it looks weird. Yeah. So reshoots, audio, and lighting. That's something kind of learning from it, from startup, from other projects, from Blame, was more of like time constraint, location. How can we get a location where, the director's not stressed, the producer's not stressed, because it's like, hey, we're behind, and also staying on schedule. And then it's like, okay, hey, we spent too much time on this scene. Let's either cut it from other scenes so we can be on time. Because sometimes it's funny, because like when you start filming, time just slips so fast. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's 6 p.m. already.
Yep.
So it's kind of like having someone watching the time, like, hey, let's go on to the next thing. Oh, hey, or especially if you're working with natural light, hey, we only got 30 minutes with natural light. Let's nail it. Or hey, we missed it. We can't do it. So I guess it's learning a lot. I've learned so much from when I first started as a producer to now, where I guess I come in a different mindset where it's like, how do we make it more effective, efficient, and where we're not spending time or wasting time, where at the end of the day we can be like, hey, that was a great great day on set. Everything's good. Our editor's happy, so he doesn't have to tell us, hey, you guys missed this. Hey, audio, what happened here in the audio? Or hey, it's blurry. So it's like, okay, and I think it's one thing is, I guess, working really closely with your editor, because I know sometimes some directors, they like to edit themselves, and which is great, but like, I'm not an editor. I edit a little bit, but like, sometimes you gotta trust in your editor process, but also kind of have the feedback back and forth. And hey, they'll tell you, hey, I think the audio's a little bit off here, or hey, what happened here? And then also kind of setting up kind of like the color grading, getting the LUTs ready on the camera, how you want the feel, the look of the scene's gonna look like, what type of color you're gonna put in there. So it just, there's so much layers to it that as an actor you don't think about it, but as like a director, producer, or anybody behind camera, it's like, it doesn't end when we say, hey, cut, all right, bye guys. Hey, you gotta edit, you gotta go through post-production, you gotta go what festival it's gonna go into, you gotta make sure that when it's shown in the theaters, the audio is great, it's not blowing people's ears off. You gotta make sure, the image looks great, coloring, and so it's so many layers to it, where when you have a great team with you, it's a lot easier and mistakes aren't made as much.
Yeah. I think Cousin was my first film that I was like, oh, you have to color grade this stuff? I've never done it before, and that's why it looks the way it looks. But I was like, oh, I got to learn how to do it. Like, I think the first film that we shot was a A7 III, and it was just regular H.264, and that was it. I didn't have to color grade anything. And then we used the Sony, the FX3, and I was like, oh, we should shoot this in RAW. Oh, okay, what is it? And then I didn't put any LUTs on the monitor. I was like, okay, I'll just figure it out. And when I went to edit, I was like, okay, now how do I do this?
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
No, I think that's the great part about, filming. Like, when you create your own stuff, you learn from it. You learn from the mistakes from it, and you're like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm going to do differently. Now I know how I'm going to approach this differently. Or like, if you work with an actor, like, he really didn't help out with set. I'll choose a different actor. And like, you learn from you learn from your mistakes, and it makes you, as a production, as a person, you get better. And then you can see the growth from your next project. Like, oh man, that's so different from what we did here to what we're doing now. And I think that's a really good payoff. Where it's like, this is pretty good. The first one,
What drives you to continue to pursue roles in both short films and commercial productions?
Man, I would say, so it's funny because, like, I'm kind of leaning towards being behind the camera now, as instead of being in front as an actor. But
why is that?
Well, I don't know. This might sound, but it's just, I feel like I'm not the best actor. But I know, right? but at the same time, if there's a script, or if there's someone, because I'm always like, if there's a script or if there's someone that's making it, I'll go with it, because I know as an actor I'm going to be taken good care of, and that's one thing. When I got my agent, I told her, I was like, hey, I don't like doing creative because I know how bad creative can be. So let me do commercial because I'm in and out. And I told myself I'll do creative if it's something that I know what I'm getting myself into, or if I work with this person, then I know the process and I know it's gonna come out great. But if I'm working with someone I've never worked with before, it's like, well, it's gonna be delayed. By the time I get there, they're 3 hours behind, no craft, and then it's like the film doesn't even show up. It goes nowhere, And then when you ask for, hey, can I get, my scenes? They're like, oh, and no. So you're like, oh, great, I can't have it for my reel. So for me, it's like, to avoid that headache, I'll just do commercials. And so I think with the F7, it's like, hey, I'm able to make, my own commercial. I'm able to reach out different companies, make it, and also kind of like travel and just see how different industries, what they're looking for a commercial. And then when it came to the creative side, I'm like, if it's someone I trust, I'll be your actor. But if it's someone where I haven't worked with, I'm a little bit like, and at the same time, I do also like acting with my friends, which Giovanni, Tony, Valerie, and Julie, because it's like when you have a great team partner, you can like bounce off each other. But at the same time, it's like I'm always cautious, Joe. I'm always cautious, but I would say
you're cautious because of experience.
Yeah, of experience. I would say bad experience, and then I've seen what good experience is, but it's like very rare to be on those sets where it's like, oh, everything's coming out great. And I say I wouldn't say I'm very lucky that Giovanni, when I first met you, he told me like, hey, they're looking for a PA, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll be a PA. At least I get to see you act. And so that was my only thought. I was like, oh, I get to see my friend act, see how he does. I drive all the way to Bremerton, and then I'm like, oh, and you guys have me at the crafty, so I'm like watching over it, and I'm like, oh, Joe, this person, I didn't know you about. Like, this person's got really nice crafty. He's got snacks, muffins. He's got it. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, do you want to do some camera stuff? I was like, I've never done camera stuff. And when you gave me the whole gear, I was like, oh, I'm back. But yeah, it just shows how you're very open to, welcoming people. And that's like, for me, I was like, man, I'm really impressed the way, you're handling the set, the way you're handling the actors, the crew, the way you care for them. And so for me, I was like, oh man, if he ever needs me, I'll be happy to help him out. It's rare to see someone who cares about everybody that's in the production, from the biggest role to the smallest part. And that's who, you just shared your kindness to everybody, and I really appreciate it. And and that's one thing, like, you were very, time efficient. You're like, hey, it's getting late, let's do this last scene. And you, like I said, you really took care of everybody, and I really appreciate it. And then just seeing your creativity when you were filming, it was just fun. I just watching, especially when, that one scene with the toe, that was great. I was like, and then it also, like, from being a PA, you're like, hey, can you, do the lights for that one scene where you're filming outside and it looks like, someone gets shot inside.
Yeah.
You gave me the tube lights, like, hey, do this and that. And it was just like, the fact that you trusted, like, a stranger, like, hey, do this. And I was, in my head, I was like, hopefully I don't screw up his movie. I was like, please work.
I think I will just say this, coming from experience as well, right? Because I've been an actor for a number of years and being on a number of sets, seeing how everything operates. I think, and I see that even actors, even sometimes myself, really, they don't care. You're just an actor, right? You just keep on going. But I think we'll give the audience a little bit of feedback here. So I met Luis. We needed a PA. Luis came on board as a PA and became a producer, because one of the key roles in producing a film, short, long, feature, whatever, is to solve problems. And Luis was solving problems. And for that very reason, PA, producer, that's what he did. And I think when you give other people opportunity to kind of step up, it's not, for me, it wasn't, I didn't think that you would screw up. I didn't think that, turning on a light is it's common sense. Right. So That's the least of my thought, you know. I just wanted it to look good. That's all I cared about. But I think it's when you come on to a set and location and you're working with new people, it is exactly what you just said, is you're trying them out. It's this is an interview. Let's see, do we want to continue to work with you or not? You know, is this going to move forward? Are we the actors? And then this is so funny because then I talked to Luis and being my next film, acting and producing as well, but acting. And so it's funny to hear you talk about the creative side because, oh man, show them the weapon that you're practicing on how to use. There you go. That's his assignment for his role. He's got to learn how to do that on both hands if we have a bonus. But he's got to spin those and learn how to kill people with them. I mean, that's what acting is all about, right? So enough about me, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. How do you decide which projects to produce, and what criteria do you consider most important when taking on a new film?
Ooh, yeah. I would say the biggest thing would probably be the budget, because sometimes you get people coming like, hey, I want this project to be filmed. Then it's like, hey, you got to think about location. We're going to be paying the crew, the actors? What is going to happen in the scene? What kind of props are we going to have? Crafty, safety. Do we need law enforcement involved for security? And just thinking of the different aspects of it, then they start thinking like, oh, it's not just bringing a camera out there and filming. No, it's like you really got to think the different layers of it. What's involved, and then after that, you got to think, hey, you got to edit this. What's the width style you want to edit? What are you going to do with this project afterwards? Because I think one of the biggest things that I would say bothers me a little bit is when someone makes a film and no one sees it, and you're like, hey, we all worked on it really hard. Like, at least share it. Like, and that's one question we ask, like, what's going to happen with this film? Is it just going to be locked up, or you're going to go to film festivals? So you're going to try to make it bigger? Like, what's your vision for the script? And then if they're like, oh, I just want to make it passion project, then it's like, hey, that's cool, but you got to think that, there's people putting their time into it. They want something that they can be proud of it. And I would say that when it comes to scripts, I'm not too biased, but if it's like, I always like to read a good script where I'm like, oh man, I didn't see that coming. Or like, oh, hey, this is pretty entertaining. Or if I can start seeing the image in my head while reading the script, I'm like, oh man, that'd be pretty cool to shoot. Or I'm seeing the scene play out in my head, where the light's going to be, the audio, what type of actors are going to play it. Are they going to be pushing in with the camera, pulling out? Are we going to use a drone shot? And so those type of scripts, they started to intrigue me more. Like, and then I go in, I'm like, hey, let's set up board meeting or say team meeting, and be like, hey, I kind of want to, I want to produce this. And then after that, it goes to like, okay, let's break it down to location, actors, crew, pre-production, post-production, budget. And then if everything works out, then, it's a green light. Because I think I feel like the hardest thing, sometimes you have to say no to some projects, even though it sounds fun, but it's like, it probably won't work out. Either one, the person doesn't have everything, figured out, and they're kind of leading towards more on you, like, hey, can you solve all these? It's like, yeah, we can, but, you're the one bringing us a script. You should be able to answer, these questions. Because when someone gives us a script, we ask them, it's about 20, 21 questions of what they want to do with the script. and it breaks down. And if they can answer all of them, and then we go to our next, we do a meeting, we start gathering the crew, because sometimes crew is really important. Because if you can work with a crew that you can trust, it's a lot easier when you're on set because everything flows. But if you haven't worked with a crew with somebody before, then for me, it's like, I don't know if this person can deliver. An example that happened to us, someone brought us a script, and we're like, yeah, we'll do it. But they wanted to use a different DP, and the way the script was written, it was beautiful, but it was like I know we can do it, but I've never worked with this person, so I can't guarantee you that it's gonna come out the way you want it to be. And then, they come in, they drop the ball, it doesn't come out how it's supposed to come out, and it's like, and I think it's hard because you're, preparing for that moment, and then it doesn't turn out the way you want it, and it's it's kind of like lost efforts. Even though, yeah, we learn from it. We're like, okay, this person needs a little bit more experience to get to that point. But it's like, well, we spent all this time, we spent this location, we spent people coming in to rehearse, and it didn't come out the way. Because one, they weren't prepared, they weren't disciplined to, execute the way that was supposed to be. And so I think it starts coming out where, after we get done with the questions, location, budgets, everything, it's like, okay, now we got to find the right crew who can do what they want. And I think for me, every time I'm looking for crew, they have to have passion for their kind of like what they want to do. Like they gotta have to have passion. If they're an editor, they have to love editing. Like, oh yeah, I love to do this. If they're a grid, we got lucky. We found a really good grid who he's very passionate. He's also he's incredible because he built his own Apple box, and he gave us an Apple box. I was like, hey, that's someone who's passionate about their subject. Because like you said, Joe, they come in, act, that's it. But there's nothing more where they want to step up and like, hey, I want to do this, or hey, what else can I help you? So if you don't have the right crew, it does show in the film where it's like, oh, hey, we missed in the audio department. Oh, hey, lighting was lacking. Or hey, there wasn't enough camera movement. It wasn't as creative as it could have been. Or the actors. One thing for actors, please don't miss rehearsals. Just go to the rehearsals. Just go. Go. That's because when you miss rehearsals, I don't know. For me, as a producer, it shows like, oh, you don't really care. Or if they have a good excuse, life happens. We're all adults. But if there's no excuse, then it's like, do you care about the project? Like, if you don't care about the project, then maybe we should find someone else that does. Because, this project is, it's still going, and I don't want it to be hindered by someone who doesn't care about the project or everybody else does. So I think for me, I'm always thinking of plan B. Like, oh, if this doesn't work, let's get someone in, switch it really quick. And I've worked with different editors where they said they would do it, didn't turn out, and then it's like, all right, now we gotta edit ourselves, or they missed the deadline. And I've worked with incredible editors where they get everything done, they finish on time, and then they give great notes of like, hey, this is what you can do different. And then it's like, okay, it's like, your fault's improving, everybody's improving from it, but yeah. Kind of going down the rabbit hole.
So, well, yeah, but when you're talking about the last project that you were talking about where they wanted to hire their own DP, and it sounds like you guys did do that project, right? And it didn't turn out the way it was anticipated. Are they coming to you for what are they coming for you for if they have their own DP?
So they're coming to us for a location,
Okay.
For editing,
Oh.
and also for, I guess, producing. Having bringing casting or actors to do casting calls, and
Okay,
then
so the whole package.
yeah, the whole package
Basically,
minus.
so it's someone who's a writer that says, "Hey, I got a script. Can you guys produce it? I'll throw
Yeah.
some money at it, and you guys can actually make it. Except, I want my own DP."
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then what was the result? You said it didn't come out the way it should have, or you guys what they wanted. What does that mean? Does that mean that visually the DP didn't hit the mark, or
Yeah. Visually, there's a lot of stuff that didn't work out. Some scenes were blurry. Some scenes weren't balanced. Because it was like the script was very creative. Like it was kind of like more of like a dream state type of flow.
Yeah.
And it didn't reflect that. And then when you give that to an editor, where he looks at it, he's like, "Hey, why are you seeing this kind of blurry?" You're like, is this the creators, what the writer wanted, or is it because the DP didn't hit his mark?
Sounds like
but
my
yeah.
next film. Yeah. I think the first film that my wife and I did was called Pyrocene, and I didn't set the white balance. So it's going in and out, and I'm like, oh my god. When I go to edit it, I'm like, oh my gosh. Note to self, like it's learning. One of those learning things. But yeah.
I would say so. I did I think it was maybe a month ago. I did a quinceañera. My brother asked me, like, "Hey, can you come out, film?" And so I brought my friend who's a photographer. I was like, "Hey, man, you'll take care of the pictures. This is what we're looking for." Boom, boom. A little bit produced it a little bit. I was like, "Hey, we need this and that. You're gonna be the lead photographer. I'm just gonna try to get anything I can with my camera." And I was like, I saw a balcony, and I was like, "I'm gonna go on the balcony, get ready, film looking down." And then they took a long time to set up, where I kind of fell asleep up at the balcony. And then the ceremony started happening, and I'm like looking through my camera, and then I realized I forgot to hit record.
So we've all been there.
We're all been there.
That's awesome.
So,
Luis, looking ahead, how do you see your role evolving with the Seattle film industry, especially with F7 Media, as far as growth?
I think for us, for F7 Media, we kind of want to, I would say, get more clients, creating different types of commercials from either real estate, tech, the food industry, just maybe sports or vehicles, just kind of have a whole different types of like commercials. Like, hey, we filmed it with boats, cars, motorcycles, restaurants, hotels, just to have that in our portfolio. And then I think it's through the F7 Media, allowing us to get more funding to create more either short stories or feature film. So then I can kind of, I guess, give back to like my friends, the community, or like, hey guys, these are the actors I worked with. I think we're doing a feature. I think you guys would be great for this role. Get them in there, and then do our creative work through that. But I would say, man, this might sound too ambitious, but I guess I want us to be like, I want us to where when people think about Seattle, they'll be like, man, F7, they did it, and they have a studio. Like I want I want to have a warehouse where we can film stuff in there, and then we can also share the space with other creatives, other directors, other productions, because I think that's what it is about, community, giving it back. And so that's kind of what, in the future, it'd be nice to have like own warehouse studio, F7.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. What is happening in the near future? Do you have anything? I know you said 48 hour, but what about 2025? Do you have anything lined up in 2025?
We do. Can't I can't really share too much details about it. But yes,
Secret project.
It's a secret project. Yes, we do. And then I would say currently we are working on kind of like a sports. I would say creative slash documentary or doc series. And then we're actually so depending when this airs, but tomorrow we're filming kind of like a live event. And so I think for us, what I'm hoping is that through that we'll be able to maybe travel in 2025 to different states, capturing either basketball, football, soccer, just different types of sports for college level athletes, and then maybe transitioning to a little bit more bigger league.
Nice.
And then our secret project, that's all I can say. It's just a secret project.
Everyone wants to know.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But I think, when we're ready, we'll announce it. But it is more of like a very long-term project that we're trying to kind of develop and make sure, when it does launch, we have everything, fixed and corrected. And it's not something where it's like, oh, hey. But I would say for acting, I can't wait to be in your film, Joe. I'm looking forward. That's the one I'm looking forward.
I got to get my ducks lined up, man. All my ducks. I'm letting you guys train, practice. I think budget is going to be an issue. I need to find producers to come on and help out on that. But everything else, it's going to be. Well, I'll tell you after we cut this. I'll tell you. It's a secret project. I can't tell the public. Luis, what's your favorite tech when it comes to film, the film industry?
Looking at, as a producer, but you're also working with your editors. If your editors have kind of like the same program, it's a lot easier to share the files and edit. For us, I would say for my preference is DaVinci. And the reason why is, and I think Adobe has it, but I haven't worked on Adobe, but DaVinci has something where you can save the project, and if the other person has the same files, they just upload the project and everything's in there. And so it's a little bit easier to share projects between editors, so they're not trying to scramble or like, oh, hey, I'm missing this and that, or hey, what'd you use for the font, or hey, where's the music? It's like, here's the project file. DaVinci will just put everything in order. The only thing you have to have is the source file. That would probably be one thing I'm like, hey, let's keep everybody in one same program. Even though I know sometimes, some people have preferences. But I mean, if they know how to work around it, perfectly fine. And then I guess the other thing for me would probably be having good audio. Having good audio.
Do you have a preference?
Man, I've done audio, and I would say I'm a big fan of the boom mics, just holding it, because you can control it. And if you have kind of like a lav mic, you're kind of, you run those risks where sometimes people touch the chest or they're moving around, you hear the noise. But with the boom mic, you have a good boom mic, it points directly to, where the voice is coming from. But sometimes, we just got a new boom mic stick. Super light, Joe. Light. Like
carbon fiber.
Yeah. Because I've used the ones where it's like your shoulders are just dying. You're like, please cut, please. Someone mess up on the line. I need a fight. And so with that, I was like, man, I can be here all day just pointing it. And then I guess the other part, which kind of is a little bit more to the actors, it's I think when you're on set, I would say, I know it happens to, all of us where we kind of get nervous and we kind of forget our lines, but know your lines before you get on set. And it's okay if the nerves gets to you and you kind of forget one or two, but don't show up on set not knowing anything, and then you're like, because it does. Because then you're like waiting, the other actors are waiting for your line, and the director and everybody's like, "Hey man, what happened?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on AI when it comes to the film industry?
I'm not much of a big fan because I feel like it I don't know, it might start to the point where it starts stealing ideas, and ideas won't become original or creative.
Like it's doing with the art.
Yeah. And I do use some AI, but just on emails. but when it comes to like creativity, it's like you start losing it, and then it's gonna get to a point where it's like, oh hey, this sounds like what this other person did, and then you kind of start seeing a pattern, and I feel like it loses kind of like that spark of, I don't know, the fact, yeah, that spark, it just takes it away from it. Yeah, that's my thought.
Luis, thank you for being on the Downing Cut. I super appreciate your time and energy and the stories and insight that you have. What's the best way people can reach you?
Yeah, so the best way that you guys can reach us or reach me would probably be through email or through our website at Seven Media. Instagram, follow. I don't really use my Instagram that much, which I should. I'll start to, but yeah, don't be afraid to send me a message, or if you just wanna, I would say, go on a ride along to see how we do things. I'm always
Ride along,
right.
Nice.
I'm always welcome, because like when I started this whole process, someone opened up their arms. They let me in. I learned so much from them, so I think it's only fair. And the one thing I never want to be is a gatekeeper. I love to share my information, because I feel like this industry that we're all in, it's big enough for everybody. It's not limited. There's enough pieces to go around, and everybody does a different way, different create. And I think that's the beauty part of it, that everybody has a creative take on it. So something could be 10 times different, and that's the best part. But yeah, you can look at us. We do have an Instagram page, FSTEM Media. That one, yeah, follow that one.
We will add everything in the link in the show notes for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much. And it's the last time you said your hand fell off. How did that happen?